I call the member for Fremantle.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Western Australia has made and continues to make a distinctive contribution to our Commonwealth. I've said before, like my colleagues, Labor colleagues from the West, I'm not an arch parochialist. I'm a proud Western Australian. It doesn't mean I underrate or undervalue any part of Australia. It does mean, as a representative from WA, that I'll speak up for my state and I'll argue for the proper recognition of WA's contribution to the Commonwealth and a fair and proportional response to WA's needs. The reality is, in the current climate, under this government, the Abbott-Turnbull government, that you have to call out the ignorance and the neglect and the complacency of their approach to Western Australia. We contribute to the life of this nation in ways that span the full range of social and economic activity, and my colleagues today have described in compelling detail our state's special characters and qualities, our industries and entrepreneurs, our environment, our cultural and social diversity and strength. And I want to outline some of those aspects of Western Australian life too, but I do want to mention today the particular contribution that Western Australian women have made to political life in this country. Edith Cowan was the first woman to serve in any Australian parliament. Dame Dorothy Tangney was the first woman to serve in the national parliament, when she served in the other place as a senator. Dr Carmen Lawrence was the first woman to serve as a premier and, indeed, as a treasurer of a state government. The member for Curtin is the first woman to serve as foreign minister. And I take this opportunity to remember and pay tribute to former Senator Pat Giles, who passed away last month. She passed away on the 9th of August. She was a lion of the Labor movement. She was an unstinting advocate for women in leadership and the first woman to chair the Senate Privileges Committee. Unfortunately, notwithstanding the great contribution of Western Australian women, WA experiences the highest gender pay gap in this country. And at a time of record and rising inequality in Australia as a whole, inequality is the worst in Western Australia. That's what you get from the double whammy of 9 years of the Barnett state government and 4 years of the Abbott-Turnbull federal government. It's now the case in WA that the wealthiest 20% of households get 44% of all state income, the highest on record. The bottom 20%, the lowest quartile, get 7% of all state income, the lowest on record. And the share of all three quartiles in between have fallen over the last decade. Now, when you throw in the fact that WA is in deep recession, we're experiencing high unemployment and record underemployment, you begin to understand the impact of this government's policies on the state of Western Australia. That's why the disparity between what WA contributes and the support it receives hurts us so much. We account for 42% of Australia's merchandise exports, 15% of the economy as a whole. We're a third of the landmass, we're 11% of the population. We're apparently due 50% of all shipbuilding, because that's what the Western Australian Libs take out full-page ads in the Western Australian to tell us.
One of two.
But while the maths on the other side isn't so good, the reality is we're getting $3.5 billion out of $89 billion. That's less than 4%. We're getting 3.8% of road and bridge projects. We're getting 0% of regional jobs and investment, and we get 3.7% of the GST. We contribute 15% of the Australian economy. We get 3.7% of the GST at 34 cents in the dollar. We get 9% of Australia Council funding. We get 5.4% of Catalyst funding. We basically get hurt and dudded by this federal coalition government at every turn. There's only one measure by which we get more than our fair share, much more than our fair share, and that's in the form of Liberal representatives in this place. We get 11 out of 16 representatives in this place from the Liberal Party. That's 69%. They want to put a floor under that. I tell you what, that's what they're working on. They want to put a ratcheting floor under that. There's no action on the GST. There's no dollar figure. The Prime Minister comes once every 12 months to say he's thinking about it and he wants to fix it, but there's no action, there's no floor, there's no dollar figure contribution. There's just this parade of Liberal representatives from Western Australia flying over here and giving us nothing. But the people in WA are cottoning on to this government. They know there's a solution. It doesn't involve rushing off the cliff like a pack of lemmings. It doesn't involve seceding from the Commonwealth or abolishing the minimum wage or halving foreign aid, all of the other brilliant ideas that come out of the conference. It involves changing the government and electing a short and
Member's
Labor
time has
government.
expired.